Hello, everybody. Good evening yet again, and welcome back to the Dugout Football channel, where it is time for another match preview. This time it is Crystal Palace against Liverpool, and when these two always face each other at Selhurst Park, usually close affairs. And I have to say, shout out to the 442 magazine, thinking Crystal Palace would come last.
Yes.
Hang your heads in shame. Hang your head in shame.
Doug, I got a tweet back from them because I was digging them out for that every single week. And basically, he was a journalist for him, and he said they did it before we made our signings, like Edouard and everything. But like I said to him, I still think that was ridiculous because, like, Wilfried Zaha guarantees 17th anyway. So, but yeah, they deserve digging out.
Yeah, absolutely. But let me introduce my esteemed guests. We have Ali from Pride of South London Fan TV. It's been a wee while, mate. Been a wee while. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yeah, been all right. Yeah, it has been a while because we were right at the start of the season, weren't we? So, yeah, Palace are going okay. And, yeah, Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Happy New Year to you. And I decided to try and get this person on one of the funniest pages on Twitter, No Context Humour. Steve, how are you, mate?
Fantastic, mate, and pleasure to come on, and pleasure to meet you face to face, Ali, as well.
Yeah,
and yeah, but don't worry, Doug. I've messaged your missus to say that you're on Twitter at the moment and you're doing a show, so she's absolutely raging right now.
You never fail to not make me smile, Steve. Absolutely. Yes, Helen, I have seen you in the chat. Rest in peace, Peter Robinson. He'll be sadly missed by the whole of LSC, including his family. Yeah, I did see that. Vieira versus Klopp enticing and fair. Yes, definitely. And apparently Leicester have gone ahead against the Tottenham. Interesting.
Brilliant.
2-1 James Maddison. Maddison. Wow.
You just know what I'm doing at full time, don't you, Doug? You just know.
Oh, of course. Of course.
It sounds like your full-time job's just to wind up other fans.
That's what I do.
That's
what I do. If you've got some intelligence, you'll rinse me back because we're Palace and we're going to lose more than we win. But, you know, the football that we're playing at the moment, I couldn't be happier because Roy Hodgson was just nearly the death of me. I can't deny that.
Yeah, so, Roy was. It was just got grim, didn't it? But I don't think people really realised until like I spoke on different podcasts just the sense of disillusionment that was growing amongst Palace fans, and I think maybe it wasn't really known because we were playing a lot of the games towards the end in empty stadiums.
Hey, Brian, thank you for tuning in once again. So yeah, we'll talk about Crystal Palace. Your season so far, you're sitting 11th, 5 wins, 9 draws, and 7 defeats. Steve, what were your targets at the start of the season? Have you overachieved? Have you still got top 10 in mind? What were your targets at the start of the season?
Before I speak about that, I just want to go off piece slightly and just say rest in peace, Jamie Vincent, fantastic ex-footballer for Crystal Palace, and I'm not too sure on the cause of death, but at 46, that's no age, and it's absolute theft. And yeah, it's really, really sad to see, and he leaves a young family as well still. So yeah, just want to say that and make note of the fact that Palace has lost one of their ex-players.
Yeah, rest in peace, Jamie. Rest in peace. Yeah. So your season so far, how have you both felt? I'll start with you, Ali. How have you felt this season has gone so far?
Yeah, I think like Steve was just alluding to, the football under Roy had got very tedious. I likened it last season to a car journey, that long car journey. It felt like it was never going to end. But like, I mean, but I do obviously have a big respect for Roy. He did see us through that pandemic period as a man in his 70s who were told to shelter. So, but I think, yeah, it's gone. But at the start of the season, I said in our conversations, I think I said I'd accept 11th to 15th as long as I saw a progression in style. We've definitely seen that. And as well, always as a Palace fan, with the cup run we had not so long ago when we got to the final against Man United, you also sort of dream about that again. And no disrespect to Hartlepool, but fourth round, you could see us hopefully getting into the fifth round there. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And also potentially, you know, top 10 isn't unrealistic for us this season. It is something that we could go for. I at least want to see us have a go at it. And that's what I like about Patrick Vieira, is he doesn't set a ceiling, where with Roy, it always felt like there was a bit of a ceiling. And I think as a football fan, you just at least want to dream. And that's what something I said about the cup was last season for me. I knew things had to change because we had Wolves away in the third round. And what struck me was the reaction of the fans as soon as the draw came out. We just sort of accepted we were going out. And then we did go out without a shot on target. And at that point, I was like, I'm fully now, thank you, Roy, let's go gracefully, which he did, thankfully. So, yeah, I think happy, very happy it succeeded because it was a risk Vieira, but a touch of frustration. I don't know whether Steve would agree, because there's just been so many games where we've had the lead and thrown it away. And I think that was always going to be happening natural, and that you'd have a bit of naivety and the team sort of put together quickly, and quite a young team and quite a young manager. So, yeah, good, but a tinge of a bit of frustration at times.
Yeah, Steve?
I mean, for me, Palace Twitter doesn't take kindly to me, because I say it how it is, and if you don't like it, well, that's just tough shit. And I said it for 4 seasons. For the first 6 months, it was probably the right appointment to bring Hodgson in, because it helped solidify us. But right from that 6-month point onwards, we were on a downward spiral, because players were aging and successively aging as a group. And if it wasn't for individual brilliance, for wins against Man United, where PVA scored and he went on that amazing run and scored, the game against Bournemouth, Wilfried Zaha with the things that he was doing, Schlupp with several goals that won us games, all of that. I think Hodgson was very fortunate to have inherited a squad, despite aging, had some centric and core quality within it. But for me, he was one of the worst managers we've ever had. And it's a controversial opinion, and people really go at me for it. But the guy had no tactical nous. He had no in-game management skills. He had no ability to change things up or inspire the team. And, you know, that leads me on to Vieira, who has just got everything that I've just mentioned. You know, you can see, as Ali rightfully says, there's been a large number of games this season. The game against, the 2 games against Brighton, the game against West Ham, the game against Brentford, which we should have won, the game against Newcastle, where we conceded late again, Arsenal, Leicester, you know, all of those sort of games where we've conceded late and we should have won. You know, the irony behind it is, if we hadn't conceded late and the concentration levels were where it should be, we'd actually be 3rd or 4th right now. That's how tragic it is. It's that tinge of frustrations there for me. There is naivety there. There are young players there. You know, Gay's a great defender. He's learning all the time, but he's making some silly mistakes. And unfortunately, if you look at some of the big sides, you've got Cancelo and you've got, you know, Laporte and people like that can recover a mistake when it happens. Unfortunately, that naivety, and Anderson's probably a level above Gay, but Ward is our biggest liability, and he's continually, game after game, being targeted and causing no end of problems. I mean, he was very much a part of probably what should be the goal of the season against Brighton, in my opinion. And that's not been biased, because it was a fantastic goal. But on 6 occasions, he got the ball and he headed it across to the Brighton player for them to attack us. And we got away with it on a number of occasions. So I still think we've got a massive weakness at right back, because I don't think Nathan Ferguson is going to ever play for us, because he's injured again. Yeah, apparently he's got another knock or something, or he's not well, or something along those lines. I don't think they're divulging the information, because they know that the Palace fans will just have a right hump over it. But every time he comes back, he gets injured again, and it's just driving me insane from that point of view.
I think you've got to feel sorry for him, haven't you? Steve, can I just pick up? I think I agree in terms of Gahey Anderson. Like, I totally agree, but I kind of get a bit more frustrated with Anderson because I feel like he's the one in the partnership who should be commanding, and that's the word I'd use. There's a lack of a commanding presence within that central defence. I love them both. I love Gahey. I think his pace is just unreal for this league. I love the way Anderson passes out from the back, but he's not. When I did a video on my show with a Fulham fan who recommended him so much, it was actually surprised we got him. But he lacks a bit of, like, I don't know, like I thought he might be like Captain McKinney at the start, but a bit of presence to sort of command the defence. And I think there's goalkeeping issues there as well. I think Guaita.
Oh, absolutely. Guaita and Butland aren't the answer. Guaita was a fantastic signing on a free, and for the first 2 seasons was a brilliant signing. However, a player's at that level, then a player drops to that level, but no one notices it. But everyone believes they're still at that level. And unfortunately, that's what's happened with him. He's finished. Butland, it's a difficult one because I know the fan base is undecided on him. Yeah. He can command the area very well. His distribution is fantastic. He's a great shot stopper. But what you want is a goalkeeper that plays out, and he can't do that. And he's been found out on several occasions already.
He can't. That's why I think Vieira will continue to go with Guaita because he's better with the ball at his feet. But I did a little poll on my Twitter, and 55% went for Butland for the Liverpool game. I do think he deserves to keep the shirt based on his performance. He
was man of the match. He absolutely deserves not to be dropped.
Yeah. I watched that Brighton game, and it was sort of upside down from the game at Selhurst. You absolutely dominated Brighton. They absolutely dominated you at the Amex.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, Doug, all the Brighton fans are saying, "Oh, we dominated you at Selhurst Park." No, you didn't. Possession-wise, you were ahead 54% to 46%, but we were all over them, and they weren't even in the game. Honestly, that fan base is just as deluded as Leeds. This is why I get so many bites out of the Leeds fan bases, because they are, forgive the expression, but they're just thick as fuck. Honestly,
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
To Leeds fans, though, they don't need the words to songs on the screen like Brighton fans do. So
that's a fantastic point, and Brighton desperate to emulate our atmosphere by encouraging one stand to sing when all they've got is one song, Albion, and it sounds like a bunch of retards singing it.
It's probably the most tragic thing I've seen since they used clappers in the playoffs about 10 years ago.
I must admit, your fans at Selhurst are something else. I think we're in for a very, very interesting game on Sunday. Helen Abel says Palace are going along quite nicely, in my opinion, under Vieira. I absolutely agree with that. There was doubts about how Vieira would start the season, but he's done well, to be fair. Massive credit because the Palace this season, joy to watch. Absolutely. Absolutely. The Palace boys must be very excited about Eze, Olise and Zaha up front.
We haven't had a chance to see those all together yet, have we, Steve?
One point I'll make on one of those points was made. I'm constantly getting into arguments because naturally I'm going to defend them, but the ultras, the Palace ultras, that segment that really drives the atmosphere, fair enough. You want to belittle that, you want to criticise that, you want to try and be a bit humorous with it, whatever. That's up to you. But those guys, no one really understands what those guys do. Those guys fundraise and generate the income that they pay for all of the displays that they do themselves. The club doesn't contribute. No one else contributes. The players don't. It's all raised by them. And say what you want about it. Yeah, they dominate that segment, especially in the Homestyle. But Jesus Christ, without them, we would have, we'd be a West Ham or we'd be an Arsenal. Leeds bang on about how their atmosphere is fantastic, but I went to that game away and it was absolutely piss poor. There was one small segment in the far right corner next to us away fans that were singing. The rest were quiet as hell. So, at the end of the day, at least we've got a fan base that tries to make it as intimidating as possible, and
Yeah.
and make that kind of, you know, onus on the players to thrive on. And it just really frustrates me when people go, "Oh, look, you got that bloody idiot with his megaphone."
I just think it's jealousy, mate, to be honest. Like, I
Oh,
just think it's
100%.
like, you know, it's just jealousy. It's very well accepted. And what you need to listen to is people who've played the game, who talk about the atmosphere and the impact, opposition managers. I mean, I've heard West Ham fans have a pop at our atmosphere, but David Moyes made a comment where he was saying about how good it was, and almost didn't quite say it to the point that they needed it a bit more at West Ham. So I think it's just jealousy. And at the end of the day, you're always going to have a pop at opposition fans. But, you know, I sit to the right of the fanatics, and it does generate. And I think the most telling thing is Conor Gallagher said how much he loved playing in front of our fans, and he's thriving off it. So I think, you know, fans, you listen to the players and the impact it has, and it has a really positive impact. And I think
the irony behind that is
someday.
Speak to a pundit, speak to a player, speak to a manager, and they all say our atmosphere is the best in the Premier League. So that either the you know, the fan bases out there are deaf, or they don't trust the opinions of the experts and the managers from that point of view. Going on to the season aspect, don't take anything away from the fact that Vieira was massive favourite to be the first manager to be relegated, and you know, I think it was something like I'm sure it was something like 11-4 on that he was. That's big odds for someone to get sacked. And we're over halfway through the season, and there's 7 other managers that have gone already. Yeah, and he's still here. The football is fantastic. Unfortunately, the Hodgson era still lives on, and it was always going to be, because you've got a squad of 25 players, of which at least 15 of them needed moving on. And we moved 7 of them on, and we still got another 6. We need to move Tompkins, Kelly, probably Gaeta now, Milivojevic. We need to move on, and this will be controversial. We need to move on Ayew. His work rate's unbelievable. What he does is unbelievable, but in front of goal, where it's vital that we do something, he's so greedy, so tunnel visioned. He's oblivious to any other players, and he's only got, I think, a year left of his contract anyway.
And he's just been knocked out as well with Ghana.
Yeah, I mean, he is available. I mean, I think Jordan Ayew really splits the fan base. I mean, he's won me over a bit because he has started to contribute a little bit in terms of assisting goals. What I used to say on my videos about him was, because the biggest defense of him is, like you say, is that he runs a lot. But I just say, well, Forrest Gump runs a lot, but he didn't play professional football. But I do think he was starting to contribute more in assists and goals. So I think, to me, Jordan Ayew is a squad player. I'm happy to have him as a squad player. I just don't think he's, for me, a consistent starter long term.
I'm happy to have him as a squad player. However, I feel that someone like Rakzaki, who, ironically, Liverpool have been scouting quite heavily, is someone that we need to bring into that first team fold and give him that experience and that aspect of being involved, because all that's going to happen is we'll end up doing another John Bostock and losing a player that you'll never know if they would do any good.
Yeah. Brian Morrissey says, one of the worst Liverpool managers ever too, just didn't get talking up Everton, for example. He aimed low. I do agree, though, Crystal Palace could have been higher in the table. Egypt won tonight, go through with Nigeria from the group. That's not good news for us Liverpool fans. Man United have scored. Yuck. Yeah, I've just seen that. It's 2-0. That's why I have a soft spot for Crystal Palace. One of the best fans, home and away in the league. Love the ultra atmosphere again behind the team. Yeah, definitely. Well, the cost of going to the game and the way people are now, atmospheric grounds everywhere is dying. 90% don't sing. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And I think the thing is, for me, though, is that I do agree Crystal Palace is the best in the Premier League. It has to be. I mean, Steve, you were at Anfield. What did you make of the atmosphere at Anfield?
It's a real odd one, because I've been there twice now. And in both games, I went to the game 3 years ago, actually yesterday, where we lost 4-3. That was the game where Speroni punched the ball into his own net for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Oh yeah.
That was
I
his
remember
last
that
season,
game.
sadly.
Yeah.
It was just weird. I expected it to be a lot louder. I expected it to be constant, and it wasn't. It was quiet for so long in various periods. The only time there seemed to be any noise is when you scored, which naturally you're going to get that in any ground. When you score, everyone's going to be happy and cheering and not that. But I was really surprised and taken aback that it was just deathly quiet for long periods. And also, I expected them to be singing a lot more songs. It just seems to be that one song that they concentrate on. I mean, I'm not a Liverpool fan. I don't know what other songs they've got, if any, but it's You Never Walk Alone, and it's consistently repeated. And I don't know, if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd probably get a little bit bored by that, because something we pride ourselves on is the high number of different songs that Crystal Palace have put together and got and used. And a lot of it gets plagiarised by other clubs, naturally, but I ain't bothered by that. But, you know, we sing from minute 1 right through to minute 19. We don't stop, and we don't leave the ground early, even if we're... I remember when we were getting smashed 4-0 by Sunderland and 3-0 by Huddersfield. No one left the ground. And you still clap the players at the end, and that's something I really do pride our fan base on.
Yeah, I think from what I've heard from Liverpool fans is that they tend to sort of turn up like the European nights, the big games. But I've also been to Anfield against Palace, and it doesn't match what you'd expect it to be. I mean, that last game, I told you, Doug, when we did the preview, I was actually in Liverpool, but I was at a wedding of a Liverpool, my friend who's a Liverpool fan. As the goals, as the goals were going in for Liverpool, it was just they were all goading me. It wasn't fun.
I was that game against Liverpool, we lost the night before. I got absolutely smashed because I stayed up there for the weekend, and me and my mate Max were walking around the streets in Liverpool just singing Palace songs and rinsing Liverpool fans everywhere. It was funny as fuck. One of the funniest nights I've ever had.
It was a really good wedding.
Nice city, beautiful city. But I was taken aback.
I don't know how he wrangled it, but he had his wedding in the Shankly Hotel.
So, wow!
Yeah, so it was good.
That's very, very good then. Apparently, Spurs have come back from the dead and are now winning 3-2 in injury time.
God.
Right.
Bergwijn double. Wow.
Quite good for Palace, because Leicester are not too far ahead of us, and they're actually a team we could potentially catch. So, I'll take that.
No, you're only 2 points behind them now.
Same.
That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. You're not far from Brighton either. I mean, they're the draw specialists of the league anyway. I think that was our 11th draw.
It pains me that they're ahead of us. It really does, because if we had, Newcastle, Arsenal, Brighton, probably West Ham we should have nicked. I mean, that's another 10 points straight away. Just annoying.
Yeah. They love a draw. They get the open top bus out and everything for a draw. But I think, to be honest, the rivalry of Brighton and the pride stakes are still very much open, because we've drawn both games, and it will be whoever finishes above who. They've never finished above us in the Premier League, by the way, despite their arrogance. So, I think we can potentially catch them. But I have to say, I don't like saying it. I think this is the best they've been since they've come up. I think so. But the thing is, I think you guys have been very, very good. And as you say, some of the games where you've been ahead, you've obviously let slip. But like the 3-0 against Tottenham, watch that game. You were absolutely amazing. I know that was when Spurs were really, really poor under Nuno, but Edward double. What have you made of Edwards since he's came into the Premier League? What have you made of him since his step up from the Scottish Prem? It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I did a poll tonight about who Palace fans want to play up front, and he's not winning it. Actually, interesting enough, Benteke was winning it the last time I looked at it. I think he came in a blaze of glory against Tottenham. It was incredible. He scored 2 goals, and to be fair, one of the first home games since all the fans were properly back in and the atmosphere really went off when he scored those goals. It was wicked. Since then, he's not kind of kept it up in terms of the goal scoring, and I'd actually say he's at his best games. I don't know if Steve would agree, apart from that Tottenham game off the left hand side.
Yeah, 1 second. I've just got to let the dog out.
Yeah, so I would say, Doug, I see the potential there. His feet are so quick in the box, and I think long term we have to get him through the middle. But I would say his best games since that Tottenham game have been off the left hand side, and for my team, I would probably play him on the left on Sunday.
Yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from, Ali, but equally at the same time, he's got his goals when he's been played in the middle up front. And we signed him for a reason. We signed him to be a striker. His work rate is absolutely phenomenal, which is the polar opposite to Benteke and Mateta. It's not their game, obviously.
I do agree with you. Long term, I think you need to go through the middle. Part of my thinking for this as well is obviously, Trent Alexander's very good going forward, but not so good defensively. And if we got Edouard in on that side,
it's lucky you haven't got Sophie on here. She'd be going at you like she went at me every time. Trent Alexander is one of the worst defenders in the Premier League. He's absolutely appalling.
Yeah,
going forward, he's unreal. He should be, and I've said it all the while, got a hole in my arse. Liverpool's central midfielder. Henderson shouldn't be playing. It should be Trent that's sitting in there. His passing ability, his crossing, his set plays, his free kick ability supersedes anything that guy has got. And no way should he be sitting at right back for Liverpool Football Club, in my opinion.
Very, very interesting. We will come on to Conor Gallagher because I have big plaudits for this for this player as well. Yeah, I know Spurs won, Cedric. Hello to Niall Kane. Thank you for tuning in. Gallagher will need replacing. No way Chelsea still. Chelsea need to clear out if they slip out of the top four. Yes, Conor Gallagher. In my honest opinion, he's probably been your player of the season. 7 goals and 3 assists this season. How good has Conor Gallagher been this season?
He's been a breath of fresh air. I mean, it's difficult. As soon as you sat there, I mean, we all saw what he did for West Brom last season.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely fantastic for them. But when you sign someone on loan, you sort of say to yourself, don't fall in love with him. Don't fall in love with him. Stop it. 1 second. Stop it. Fucking dogs. But unfortunately, I don't think there's a Palace fan out there that wouldn't say that they're in love with the guy and his ability and what he can do. The romantic in me says we have got a slim chance of signing him. Mm-hmm. We will be in for him. We will try, especially with the people that we've got now owning the club. John Textor is absolutely worth shitloads now. And he's just buying clubs for fun and doing all kinds of stuff. So we will be in for him. The question lies with one thing. It depends what acumen, intelligence he's got as a person and whether he sits back and thinks about it properly. So he could go back to Chelsea and he's absolutely all day good enough to play for Chelsea. However, the main issue he's got, which is the main issue any other young player's got, is the managers. The managers that run Liverpool, that run Chelsea, that run Man City, that run those big clubs want established European players playing in those positions. So at Chelsea, you've got Kovacic, you've got Kante, you've got Jorginho, you've got Hudson-Odoi, you've got Pulisic, you've got Ziyech,
Mount,
and you've even got, what's the kid's name that's at Norwich on loan at the moment?
Gilmore. Billy Gilmore.
He's coming back as well. So realistically, is he going to go back and dislodge any of those? Absolutely not. No chance. Despite Tuchel coming out and lauding him, which naturally he's going to, because it's an impressive spell that he's had for us, he isn't going back and dislodging any of those unless they have a horrific injury crisis there's no chance that boy goes back to that club and plays for them. He will be warming the bench at best. And he has to sit there and think, right, do I want to do that? Do I want to spend the last 18 months of my contract just sitting there watching other people play? Or do I want to sit and play for a club where I'll be first choice, I'll get that game time, I'll be able to develop. I'm under a manager that, despite all the criticisms, has been coached and mentored by Pep, of all people. And you can recognise some of that play in the way that we play.
Yeah.
So it's a big choice for him to make, and it depends again what Chelsea want from him. They're probably going to want somewhere around 30, 40 million, perhaps. Might even be more. I don't really know, but the reality of it is, if he was to sign for us, my God, he could have an unbelievable Premier League career. And chances are, if he signed for us, he probably wouldn't stay with us for much longer than 2 seasons, perhaps.
Yeah.
But it allows him to carry on that trajectory.
I think for me, I'm more pessimistic. I think there's a chance we get him. I don't think it will be in the summer. I think Chelsea are going to have a long look at him. You don't know who's going to be the Chelsea manager. That's for a start. There's a bit of noise now around Thomas Tuchel, as ridiculous as that is. I know Thomas Tuchel has come out and said that he really likes Conor Gallagher. I personally think he is good enough to break into that Chelsea team, but it's a very difficult task, as Steve says. But I do think he's going to want to have a crack. I think it will be a case of, realistically speaking, he will go back in the summer. They'll have a look at him in pre-season and they'll make an assessment. I think he will go into the season a Chelsea player. I think it then could become potentially, either it's going to go either way. Either it's going to go really well for him. And I think good luck to him. He's very capable of going up to the higher levels of football. Or it will become a Jesse Lingard situation where he becomes available again later down the line. So I think he definitely, as I said earlier in this video, he loves playing in front of our fans. I don't think the story with him is over, but I'd be pessimistic about getting him in the summer because I think Chelsea look.
I mean, I concur with that point you're making, Ali. I think we've got realistically hardly any chance of signing him. We will be in for him. We'd be stupid not to be. However, if we were to complete the signing, it would be. I'd quite happily have the leadership team, the recruitment team, sit there and go, right, we're putting all our eggs in one basket with Gallagher. We're going to sign him, and we're going to fuck off the next 2 transfer windows on the back of it. I'd quite happily do that because the wages that we could release by Luca, Tompkins, Kelly, Gator, those sort of people going, we'd be able to sign people. We'd have the money there to sign on the back of it. It wouldn't be too much of an issue.
I wonder what you think, Steve. The only problem I see with it going forward, and listen, if we can sign him, we can sign him. My worry is how you fit Gallagher and Eze in the same team long term. Because long term, I want to see Eze through the middle. And I think Gallagher's best position is in a more advanced role. I know he's come back and he's worked a bit deeper for us, but he doesn't do as good a job. He needs to be sort of set more free as the sort of further forward in the free in the middle. And for me, long term, I find it interesting if Gallagher was to stay, which to be honest, I'm a bit more pessimistic about. I don't know how him and Eze will fit in the team. Will Eze be more out wide? I'd like to see long term see Eze through the middle. And that's just another interesting question to think about, or potentially. But it's a big if Conor Gallagher was to stay long term.
For me, one of the questions that come up, or one of the points that come up, how do you fit Elise, Eze, and Zaha in the team? Well, it's quite simple. We play with that 5 anyway, across the midfield, and we play with the 1 up front. We're never going to go with 2 up front. That's never going to work for us. We don't have the players to do that in terms of specifically the striker. So for me, my ideal Crystal Palace side would be Edouard up front, Eze just behind, Zaha on the left, Elise on the right, and Gallagher in the middle, as it stands right now. I feel we need a new right back. That's a must. Anderson and Gay, Man United just scored a 3rd one. And left back, we've got an unreal defender in Mitchell.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just a little bit of strength and depth for the bench, really, and maybe one or two of the youngsters makes a case for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Apparently, Ronaldo wasn't too happy about being subbed. That's quite funny. Trent doesn't sit at right back. He does all those things from his position, spend most of the time midfield. Oppo fans always say he should play mid because they don't actually watch him. What was that? Leicester just done a Spursy. I just saw that. Gallagher should stay at Palace for me or elsewhere. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, I did see that, Helen. We did lose to Spurs. At least Egypt won and Naby, Salah, Mane are through to the last 6. Yeah, obviously going into this game, we are obviously talking about Conor Gallagher, but Jordan Ayew, many people have said he's like a Roberto Firmino kind of player. Doesn't get you the goals, but is hard working off the ball is second to none. However, he hasn't had a very, very good African Cup of Nations. Ghana were shocking in the 3 games that I watched, and obviously I know Andre got sent off for basically nothing. But what have you made of Ayew this season? Because Steve, I know you've been very, very vocal on Ayew, but Ali, what have you made of Ayew this season?
Look, he has won me over. If you go back to like my videos and my reviews at the start of the season, I would have been slating him. But he has become. All I'd ever say of Jordan, he has to contribute something in terms of end product. And there was a point where he had 1 goal in 50 games, and you just can't justify that. And fans on social media, Palace fans, would just justify it by him running a lot. But he's a forward player. He's got to produce goals and assists. As I said earlier, Forrest Gump ran a lot. He didn't play professional football, but he has started to. Before he went to the African Nations, he started to contribute in goals and assists. For me, I think he's a massive Vieira favourite, though. For me, he's always very useful in those sort of away games at Arsenal and Man City. I'd always put him in for those because his work rate and his tracking back is brilliant in those games. And I think we might potentially miss a bit of that on Sunday. I mean, he's back, but I don't think they'll throw him straight in.
No, I don't know about match sharpness or anything.
I don't know what the COVID situation.
For me, I mean, Ali's absolutely right. His work rate's phenomenal. Can't knock that. There isn't a part of me that can criticise him for that. It's fantastic. And the runs that he makes, he hasn't got the pace. He can't beat people. He does get away from the odd player. But for me, the bit that really, really divides me and really frustrates me is as soon as he starts approaching that goal, where it's weird the way he runs. He kind of goes like that. And he'll go down and then he'll come in and then he'll try and shoot. And the goal's there. He's trying to, what are you doing? You've got 2 players that have made the run. You've got Edwards come in like that. You've got Zaha come over there. And he completely ignores them. It's just tunnel vision. And
I mean, the best way to mark it, he just runs down cul-de-sacs all game, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, if he passed it, if he knocked the ball in the middle, to be fair, I'd be arguing all day that he's got to start, but he doesn't even do that. It's just like you can't keep getting into those positions and just thinking that it's quite arrogant, put it that way, that you're the person that takes that opportunity on yourself when,
I mean, to be fair to him, he squanders so much. He's played most of his career as a striker and he's been playing out wide. So I just don't think he's got that football intelligence really to do the role. But yeah, I mean, for me, his work rate can be really useful, particularly in the games away at the bigger teams. But I've always said he has to contribute something in terms of end product if he's going to play in the front 3. And to be fair, he was starting to do that before he went to the African Nations. But he is a massive Vieira favourite, Steve. I mean, he kept putting him in even when he wasn't scoring. Yeah,
I mean, he has done that, but I just wish there was more that came from him. Even if he was passing it, I'd be all right with that. But he don't even do that. It just irritates the life out of me.
Yeah, I think a big club will come calling for Gallagher. Maybe. Tottenham winning feels like messing with FIFA slider settings to 0 so you can win 3-2. Very Brendan too. Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely agree. Past meetings now. Obviously, I know that Liverpool and Crystal Palace have had some very, very good meetings. Well,
Istanbul.
Yeah. The last two games. Now, obviously, 3-0. I think 3-0 flattered you guys. I don't think it was a 3-0 game. You had chances in the game at Anfield. You actually had chances. Edward had a couple. I think you could have had a penalty as well. I think Zaha went down.
It was a penalty all day long, but the big team bias stopped that from happening. And I've been very vocal about that. You know, whoever's defined the big team seems to just get the decision go for them, and it's wrong. It should be, and VAR, just on a separate point, should be three people. It should be a referee, a pundit, and an ex-player. And the 2 versus 1 that makes the decision is the decision, rather than them directing it back to the referee, who's going to side by what he's got being told in his ear. It's just wrong. You know, the Keita goal and the third goal were both Keita's fault. You know, he punched out the ball to Keita, which was, he could have caught the bloody thing. Why are you punching it out?
Yeah.
You know, that was a harsh scoreline, a very harsh scoreline in my opinion.
I think what I'd say, Doug, I think 10-0 aggregate over those two games looks awful, doesn't it? What I'd say the story of those two games was you were very, very clinical. I mean, that 7-0 last season wasn't my worst game of the season. Like, I felt like we actually played all right, funnily enough, but you were so clinical. And I think for me, the players who are missing for African nations across both teams, like I think Kouyaté is a big miss for us personally. I think the Palace fans have realised what he brings to our midfield. We lacked control and didn't really get control against Brighton. Saha's obviously a big miss. But I think for me, it goes in our favour because I think without Salah and Mane, you might not be as clinical and that might just keep us in the game longer. And traditionally in the second half, we kick in front of the homestyle where the fanatics are. If we're even one goal down going into the last 30 minutes, I've got a feeling we could get something out of it. And I think that's going to be the difference between the previous recent meetings we've had, is I think this will be a better game and a closer game.
I agree. I think it's going to be a lot closer than many people think. I don't think it's not going to be 7-0. I think that was just a complete one-off, and it was a weird season. You know, we conceded 7 and scored 7. It was absolutely crazy. But I do think it'll be a very, very close game. But this is a very good point from Brian Morrissey. Remember Kennedy and Bakayoko? They're still both Chelsea players. They give ridiculous contracts. Gallagher will get a new 5-year deal and go on loan again. It's what Chelsea do. It's what Chelsea do, unfortunately.
But I do think as well there'll be other teams sniffing. It wouldn't surprise me if Newcastle come sniffing for him. And they're giving him
hello to Elevator and Escalator fan. Thank you for tuning in. I mean, quite incredible. Let's put it that way. But as Chris Welsh said, very Brendan. I felt like we were playing Southampton when we beat Palace 7-0 last season. Like I said earlier, I fear a draw at Palace, so hope for a close win. It's going to be a tough match. Yeah, absolutely. Hello to Ballum. Hello, everybody. Will Nathaniel Klein play? Martin Kelly or James Ward? Happy with Patrick. Oh, Jesus Christ, so many questions. Who's going to play right back?
I would have Klein all day right now.
It will be Joe Ward, though. I mean, Joe Ward's been starting most of the season. I don't know where Klein's at. I mean, I wanted Klein last season, to be fair, and then he just sort of disappeared. I think, we do need an upgrade on Joe Ward. I'm gutted to hear that Ferguson's potentially injured again because you got to feel sorry for the guy. I was hoping that potentially he'd come in at home to Hartlepool. I thought that'd be a good game to embed him in, but it's just clearly not meant to be. I think it will be, the answer to that is, I think maybe quite a few Palace fans would like to see Klein because as much as we love Joe Ward, he's a great stalwart of the club.
Fucking useless.
It's just not quite there at the level that you need for the top Premier League games. Having said that, there's so many times over the last year or two I've said that, and then Joel Ward just comes out and proves you wrong. He He's very, very stubborn character. So I think it answers this question, who will it be? It doesn't really matter what Palace fans think. I think Vieira will go with Joe Ward. That's what he's done for the season.
Yeah, definitely. What have you guys made of Liverpool so far?
Right. Well, for me, it's been more interesting off the pitch because I found Jurgen Klopp absolutely fascinating this season. I think if I was Boris Johnson, I wouldn't be employing Sue Gray to investigate the wine and cheese parties. I would employ Jurgen Klopp because he would definitely come up with a good excuse for him. And I just wondered, Doug, I'm interested as a Liverpool fan, what your perception of him and his comments, because for me, I've always liked Jurgen Klopp. He came in as a breath of fresh air, but he's almost like Ferguson was, when he's just always sort of moaning, sense of self-entitlement. And when it finally tipped for me was his comments about Burnley and internationals. I thought
that was ridiculous
and very patronising. I was wondering what you think of it, but I would have a caveat with that. Is I actually think Jurgen Klopp looks quite tired. And during the COVID period, I think it was his mother he lost.
He lost his mother.
I actually watched the interview the other day, and it was a bit like Nigel Pearson and that ostrich thing. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I just kind of feel like sometimes I've watched him and I feel like this guy actually just needs a bit of a break. But at the same time, in terms of you, I think you got to keep winning. You got to win to keep your title hopes alive, because Man City are almost away. If you win a game in hand and you still got to play them, you can stay in it. There's still hope. I think your season will be defined by the cups. And, I think he'll take the League Cup more seriously. You're always capable. I think I can see you going deep in the Champions League. You've got that experience and you've got Salah. And I think that's where your eggs will probably, towards the end of the season, go more in that basket. But yeah, for me, I found Liverpool more interesting off the field. I'd be interested in your perception as a Liverpool fan about him and about Klopp in general and his comments and how you found them. Do you think it's that they have a positive impact on the team?
I'll be honest, I've stopped watching his press conferences, especially when it's come to COVID and all this. Like, I just like the Christmas period stuff. Like, the Christmas period has been the Christmas period for all as long as I can remember, 1992, 1993. So he must have knew when coming into the Premier League that the scheduling, the Christmas scheduling has always been Boxing Day, 28th, 29th, New Year's Day, 2nd of January. Yeah. It's just this all round talking about that that's really, really made me just angry. Just get on with it. Just get on with it. I do agree to an extent that he could be tired. He did lose his mum during the pandemic. He did lose his mum, I think, last year. So he's bound to be tired. But the thing is with me, he's still as determined as ever. I still think he is still as determined as ever to try and win a trophy. I do think we'll go deep in the Champions League because I do think we're a kind of team that are actually made to play in the cups. Yeah, I think we might go. I think we, looking at the Arsenal game tomorrow, obviously if it goes ahead, that or Arsenal makes another excuse about COVID players, and they're selling Mari, Maitland-Niles, and Balogun to. I think Kolasinac is gone as well. It's
another one gone. Yeah,
it gets to a stage where Arsenal are selling most of their players, and yet they're not getting the game. They're not going to get the game on. So if you've got the required players, then obviously play it. But it's a fascinating one with Jurgen Klopp. But I still think he is determined. I think. Yeah. FA Cup run, we've obviously got Cardiff. I want an FA Cup run this season. I do. I want an FA Cup run. You as Palace fans, you'll be wanting an FA Cup run as well.
Oh, absolutely. I've said it all along. The discontent that Hodgson showed towards the Cup, the way that he treated it was disgusting. It absolutely enraged me, specifically when the players got us to the quarterfinal against Watford and he put out a weakened side. It's like,
Yeah.
For fuck's sake, mate, what are you actually doing? You know, what ability have you actually got? You're not taking the cup seriously, specifically at the quarterfinal stage. That was just really annoyed me, and equally, it was annoying that we went out to the League Cup to Watford again this season. But I'd like to see, you know, we've got a Hartlepool. It's not going to be an easy game because we know that the cup brings the magic. But I can see us getting through that, and I can see us having a decent cup run because a lot of the big sides don't take it seriously.
Yeah, I think Klopp will take it more seriously this season, depending on where you're at in your title race as the season progresses. If you're still in it, then I think in the title race, then maybe he will, if you got to the latter stages, rest some players. But I do think he'll. I mean, your eggs will probably towards the end of the season be in the cup because I think Man City are obviously getting away from you. But yeah, Klopp is interesting. I do agree with some of the stuff he says because I actually, you know, I know the Christmas period is tradition, but I do think the fact is the Premier League left the rules so open to interpretation, and how they weren't more prepared and had everything set. It's not like COVID is a new thing now. It's affected 2 seasons before this one. You know, I mean, Vieira in his press conference said he didn't understand the rules. So there has been aspects I've agreed with Klopp on about because it has been a bit of a fiasco. To be honest with you, and I do actually think they could have thought about it because
it has, Ali. But equally at the same time, when you've got teams like Crystal Palace asking for a game to be called off because we had a number of COVID cases and it being turned down, Leicester having games turned down, and various people like that, and then Arsenal go and ask, and Liverpool go and ask, and Man United go and ask, and Chelsea go and ask, and they get their games obviously approved. Yeah, you know, it's circumstantial, you could argue, but it's not for me. It's just big team bias. We've got to bend over backwards for those guys. We're going to give them what they want, and that's why when you see the games actually played, decisions go in their way as well. Where it should be an equal playing field. Forgive the pun.
Yeah, and it's not been because the rules have been left too open to interpretation. And I think the Premier League have to take ownership of this and get something in place for next season. I mean, hopefully we're still in a much better place again next season. But I think as well, I know I like the Christmas period as well, but I do think it was a bit ridiculous to stick the game in on the 28th as well because, you know, you're bang in the middle of a respiratory season. Yeah, we know that COVID had an impact. Put the games, at least one of those games, maybe more towards the end of the season, and you're now in a situation where Burnley have 5 games in hand.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
Equally, you know, for year after year after year after year, as far back as I remember it, it's not a shock. It's not a surprise. The Christmas period and the number of games that are played. You know, there's 4 or 5 games played in a 2-week period. Everyone is in the same in the same situation. So it's not a shock. So for them to start trying to create an agenda and force a point through, it just seems really bizarre. And I'm not being funny, Doug. It's ironic that people like Klopp, people like Arteta, trying to push for games to be cancelled because they're complaining about the number of games being played, and all of a sudden, half a dozen players have got COVID. All of a sudden, you know, is it coincidence? I don't think it is. I think it's just.
Well, I didn't actually have COVID. There was it 10 false positives or something like that?
Oh God! Oh, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, no, I read something somewhere that statistically that how unlikely it was to have 10 false positives. Yeah, that was very, very odd. That should have been investigated, in my opinion.
And to be fair, I'm not being funny. It's bordering on illegal what they've done, you know, and it's not got nothing to do with the fact it's Liverpool, but it's like if you've got genuine COVID cases, fine. I ain't got an issue with that. But if you're going to lie and blatantly say that you have because you're saying that your players are tired and you want the game called off, I just think it's bang out of order and it's wrong. Because if Palace did that, you know, we'd get berated big time over it.
Yeah, of course we would.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the thing is, I don't like the fact that there are certain clubs that are taking advantage of trying to get games postponed. I mean, Arsenal had one COVID case against Tottenham, and their game was called off. It's getting to a stage now that we're just going to have to live through with this. And if the players have got COVID, you've got COVID. That's absolutely fine. But if you've got the players that are ready to play them. Play the under 18s, play the under 21s, because I think
that's been the biggest shame of this whole situation. Is it's really highlighted how lack of trust there is from Premier League managers in their academies. And I don't know, maybe Klopp just really doesn't believe in his academy. I think it was our under 18s or under 23s who we actually beat you earlier on in the season. I think that's been the biggest shame about it. But I think where the rule has gone wrong is it should be about the amount of COVID cases. If you've got, more than a certain amount of COVID cases, obviously sweeping through your training ground, I could understand a bit of a circuit breaker of 7 days or something and calling a game off. But games are being called off because players are on the African nations and are injured with 1 or 2 COVID cases. And that's where this thing has gone totally wrong.
Yeah, definitely. Crystal says Crystal Palace and Liverpool 2. We will get to starting 11 and score predictions very shortly. I'm not surprised these texty Liverpool fans would drive anyone nuts. Yeah. Liverpool Twitter, folks, don't do it. Liverpool finished second, I think. Yeah, I think we'll finish second. I think Chelsea are going on a bit of a really, really bad spell at the moment. Jones to score from midfield? I hope so. Curtis Jones is a good player. Our title race is over. There's more chance of me getting a day with Ariana Grande. Don't see City dropping that many points because some Liverpool fans start howling at the moon like a wolf at me. Yeah, no, I think if you're a realistic person, I think you'd probably say it's over.
I think the biggest reason why Liverpool won't win the league is recruitment, and unfortunately, that they don't have the money. It's a bit of a weird statement. You don't have the money, but you do have the money. You have the money to spend, but you have the board and ownership that's not willing to release that money to spend. And unfortunately, with the game as it is now, you've got Salah who's just approaching 30. He wants a 4-year contract. He wants 400 grand a week to sign for Liverpool again. And for me, as good as Salah has been, Salah is going to very quickly start to decline, and you're going to be stuck with a player that's on a 4-year contract at 400 grand a week. And unfortunately, you haven't been looking at who is coming through next, who's going to get the next opportunities at Liverpool, and the recruitment from that point of view, signing one player, which was Konate, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the reinforcements for other players to start to develop and come through. And equally, Klopp will only play young players when there's injuries or AFCON. So no one's actually pushing to come through other than, what's his name, who broke his leg, the youngster that was on loan to Blackburn last season.
Leighton Clarkson.
No. The one that was on loan at Blackburn and he come back and he started for you at the beginning of the season. His leg was broken.
What's his name?
My mind's gone blank now.
I can't think who that is.
He's 17, isn't he? He was playing right.
Was he at Fulham originally?
Yeah.
I know who you mean, yeah.
I'll tell you.
I know who you mean, but the name isn't ringing a bell, unfortunately. Brian Morrissey says Thiago's a write-off for me, to be honest. Bad to Barcelona in the summer to replace De Jong. Salah hasn't played at Wembley yet, has he? He's played once. No, twice actually. It was when Tottenham were at Wembley. So yeah, he has. I reckon we're winning the Champions League and the league. Hopefully. That would not be a too bad a season. That's bold, but it's possible. Thiago says he wants to stay at Barcelona. I think Barcelona is just a mess right now.
Harvey Elliott, that's it.
Says he wants to stay at Liverpool. Harvey Elliott, yeah. He won't be back for the game. I don't think at the weekend. I think it's too soon. Premier League always been Big Six biased. If we're behind closed doors, no games will be postponed. Simple. Yeah, absolutely. Seem to be foreign managers of Big Six complaining, whinging, moaning all the time. I'm playing Newcastle career mode and they beat Southampton 6-1. I got an opening UEFA Champions League win versus Villarreal and it almost beat United. Very interesting. I totally agree. Leeds played every game with kids and a massive actual injury list. Yeah, I know. Absolutely. Ironic seeing Rangnick moaning about League Cup should be scrapped when he's been here 5 minutes and a German Gollum PE teacher. So pipe down if I was him. It's way too easy to fake sickness. Yeah. Arsenal want to respond against Liverpool because they're scared of us. Yeah. I think that's probably definitely. I agree. Though it's disgusting. Are you glad to being able to be in Premier League? Yeah, 10 years you guys have been a Premier League side now. That must be very very good for you guys.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's a fantastic achievement because we're little old Palace and not one person thought that we were going to get past the first season, and equally when we did that, it was like, second season syndrome is going to catch you. So we haven't set the world alight. We've had some brilliant results, individual results. We've beaten Man United, we've beaten Man City. We've beaten Chelsea. We've had some great results against the big clubs. Where it's fallen down for us is results against teams around us. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be able to get ourselves up for it every single time. But a decade in the Premier League, it's a fantastic achievement for Crystal Palace, and I genuinely believe that we could probably scrape top 10, but more realistically finish somewhere between 11th and 14th. But this is a transitional season. Don't forget, we've got a new manager, a new style of play, and we've got new players. Recruitment over this window, I don't think is going to happen too much, but the next window certainly will. And I think we're a team that's going to start to go places, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's just a testament as well. I think we're a well-run club, and I think whatever you say about Steve Parish, he's made some big calls at the right time. And just thinking back to that first season, Tony Pulis was a big call, but whatever you think about the way he left, that first season staying up was massive. And I think as well, what's exciting is we're in a new cycle of the team. And I think the first cycle of the team peaked at the FA Cup final when you had Saha and Balassi on either side of the wing. And then it kind of dipped. Roy, to be fair to him, stabilised and kept us in the league when really Wilf was really our only real flair player and outlook. And now we're definitely in a new cycle with players like Elise and Eze. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. I think potentially this new team will be better than the team that got to the FA Cup final under Pardew.
Interesting. Yeah. Obviously, before we get to starting 11 and score predictions for the game, Wilfried Zaha is a big talking point. What have you made of him this season?
Mate, I mean, to be fair, for me, it'd have to be like a whole other podcast. I just think, for me, it gets a big talking point because he's a very good player. And when opposition fans talk about your player and they're rattled so much, that's a positive. It means he's doing something right. The talking that there's been agendas. I've got like videos on Saha on my channel. There's been agendas against him from the outset. One about his time at Man United, which has been wrongly reported for years. Second, about his product. His end product's been really, really good in recent years. Actually, he got 11 goals last season in a team that averaged under 40% possession. And this year, it's all about him remonstrating against the referees. And listen, I heard Dean Ashton before we played Tottenham at home, not the away game where he got sent off, at home. So he didn't understand how Saha could play so angry. And then he's absolutely raging with Tanganga and he got a goal and assist. It's like, it just defeated any point he was making. There's a documentary on Wayne Rooney, and in this little clip, or like they do as like a teaser about it, there's a journalist saying that Rooney had to play on the edge. That's just the way he was. Apparently, because Saha plays for Palace, he's not allowed to do that. And for me, if you take away the fire from Wilf, you take away the player. And for me, he deserves so much more credit for what he's done. I don't actually think with what Steve was saying earlier on this video about Roy Hodgson, and he kept us up really with Wilf as really our only real outlet. I don't think there's been a player who's kept a team, carried a team like Wilfried Zaha has in the Premier League since Matt Letizia in the 90s. But he won't get the.
Yeah.
I like my last point is, he's a talking point because he's good. There's a reason why he rattles the opposition fans, and even at Man City away this season, he rattled half their team. Like the lives in so many fans' heads rent free. Like they all pipe up. Southampton fans.
Was it
Bournemouth
Laporte
fans this season? It's like, I don't even know half your team, Bournemouth fans, and you're just banging on about one of our players. I just find it quite.
The thing with Zaha is like you say, Ali. I mean, every team has that kind of one player that kind of gets focused on, don't they? And it's jealousy. It's a combination of jealousy. It's a combination between, a lot of things. I mean, Zaha, yeah, he does exercise a bit of controversy in terms of the way people feel about him. He does flap his arms around. He does moan a lot. In part, I don't want to really criticise him too much because for me, he's the GOAT at Palace and he always will be. But at 29, he should specifically have learned. He should be thinking this is a compliment to me. And he's talked himself into the book so often in the last season and a half. It really frustrates me because it's like if you just get up, smile at the player, that's going to rattle the player even more. He's going to come after you again. And chances are the booking that you've given him, he's going to turn into a red. And it has happened a few times. It happened against Spurs this season with Tanganga. So, if it just needs to be a bit more mature about it. However, 11 goals last season, 73 goals, over 400 appearances over nearly a decade for a club. And, let's face it, you went to Man United. He was unlucky because Ferguson retired and Moyes doesn't believe in young players. And that was in our favour, and that's why we got him back. Yes, he's sulked a bit. Yes, he's wanted to move. Yes, he's got bigger aspirations. He may well still achieve that. I don't know. But he's got 14 months left of his contract. It may well be that it winds right down to the end of it and off he goes on a free. Or it may well be that we renew it. I don't know. But when that guy is on it and when he's running at players, my God, he's a talent. And I don't care what anyone says. I have arguments all the time with the Leeds fans, as you know, and other people.
Yeah, they really don't like Leeds fans, do you?
They're just easy to get bites from. Leeds don't bother me by any stretch. They play relatively good football, but they bang on about Rafinha is the best player outside the top six. How Bissouma is the best player outside. No, they're not. Zaha has been categorically the best player outside the top six. Previously, players like Grealish kind of, matched him from that point of view. But he's in the top six now. He's a £100 million player. So at the end of the day, the only reason why he's not moved on is because Steve Parish had an £80 million ceiling as a price, and unless it was met, he wasn't going anywhere. And with 3 seasons to go at that point, when we were offered 70 million by Everton. Why would you want to sell this player? You wouldn't want to do.
I think that's for me one of the most frustrating things is when these fans pipe up. They say, "Oh, he had his chance at Man United," and like I said, I've got a video on how ridiculous it is what happened to him there. But also they say, "Oh, well, he never did it at a big club." But actually, he when people talk about use the word attitude with Zaha, the way he got treated at United, and then to come back, as Steve said, and at one point, I think it was 2-3 years ago, he was known universally as the best player at top six. He earned a move back to a big club. It was actually Arsenal who really wanted him. He actually met with Unai Emery, and Unai Emery said he wanted him, but we blocked it. The fact is, as Steve said, Paris priced him out of it. The thing that I would come back on a little bit and say is, as Steve touched on, for Wilf to get up and take it as a compliment, that's actually what about 2 or 3 pundits said on Match of the Day that he should do 2 or 3 years ago, when I think it was Decore who stamped on his leg. And I think the problem for me a bit, Steve, is since then, I actually am quite pleased that he started arguing back at the refs, because I don't think our players have managed him enough. They've not got James McArthur's very good at it, getting around him and the ref and sticking up for him a bit. And actually, Wolf's just decided I'm going to stick up for myself and have a lot of verbal dialogue with the ref and protect himself a bit, because he doesn't get the protection of a top 4 player. Could you imagine if someone like Decore had stamped on Eden Hazard the way he did 2-3 years ago? It would have been absolute uproar. It was a leg break. How Wolf hasn't had like as he said in an interview, a match the day after that, a leg break. I really don't know. But like I said, I do get the frustration as well of some Palace fans. I can get it. For example, he was silly when he got sent off against Tottenham. He took it too far, and hopefully now he might hone it in a little bit. But I will always defend him with it, because I actually quite like the fact he has dialogue with the refs, because I think he needs to, and I actually think refs have started giving him a little bit more this season.
I don't know about that, Ali. He don't seem to be getting the decisions his way, but the problem he's got, I mean, I guess it depends on
clear agenda.
It depends on the referee. Some are, but the vast majority aren't. And the problem is, when you make a precedent for yourself in this league, unfortunately, that bias is always going to be there, and you can't control it. You can't influence it anyway. And the other issue that we've got is we don't have a captain. We haven't had a captain since Jedinak, who's in the referee's ear, who's going at them.
I think it was quite telling that Tottenham game where Salah got sent off, James McArthur wasn't playing, because I think he's the only one actually who's quite good at that.
Yeah, and apparently James McArthur winds up Arsenal fans. It's hilarious. But the thing with Zaha is, I think any club would want him in the side. He is a very, very good player. Yes, he can get under your nose, but he is a very, 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 very good player. I think he got Laporte sent off again for City earlier in the season.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, he had half the City players wound up that game. That was definitely one of his better performances.
It was hands down. It was hands down a sending off. But all the virgins and idiots on Twitter were like, it's not a sending off. Hands down, it was. And if
last man goal scoring opportunity,
doing exactly the same thing, I was saying he's got to go. He's going. There would be no element of bias from me on that, and it was hands down a foul.
What do you make of this comment?
I don't know about that. I think it's too soon for that. Like I said, I'd like to see us go deep in the FA Cup. I think we've got a team potentially able to do that. And I know that people will say we're a growing team, but while we have got Conor Gallagher, we need to, I think, squeeze what we can out of this current team this season. And I'd like to see us go deep in the Cup, but Europe, I think that's too soon for us.
Yeah, it's probably too soon, given the fact that in my mind we are definitely in a transitional season.
Yeah.
Granted, the football's been absolutely excellent. The recruitment, it's the best recruitment or set of recruitment that we've had in one patch, in one window, in the whole of my life as a Palace fan. We're probably 3 or 4 players still short. Who they are, what we've got available to spend, who knows? We don't know from that point of view, but I can't knock it from that. And the summer of 2021 was absolutely exemplary, in my opinion.
In my opinion, we had the best window out of all the clubs in the Premier League. So you think about the amount of players that we lost on the free transfers, and everyone was saying that as a reason why we were going to go down. Although most Palace fans knew that actually it's quite positive. We were shipping on some players on high wages. But they had to nail the incomings, and they really, really did. And not only did they do that, they did it with players who can play to Vieira's style. What I think we don't have is a squad who can play to Vieira's style. So if Anderson goes, Tompkins comes in, and suddenly the passing out from the back gets really awkward.
I think I had you guys to finish 12th this season. I think that was quite fair as well. But I think Palace should be looking up rather than looking below them, for sure. Right. Rest in peace, Peter Robinson. Must say that. Very, very sad to hear that today. So, starting 11, what are you going for?
What you're doing, Steve? I think I'd stick with Butland, because I think
I think it'd be a massive injustice if Butland was dropped, given how well he performed, and he needed that. He needed that performance. granted, the way the team played allowed him that privilege because they were absolute shit. Aside of Gallagher and Hughes, everyone needs to hold their heads in shame because they weren't up for that, specifically as a derby from that point of view. So Butland needs to obviously go in goal, in my opinion. Left back takes care of itself with Mitchell, Anderson, and Gay in the middle. If he is fit, then I would be playing Klein. If Ferguson's fit, then I would put Ferguson in ahead of Klein and Ward. But
I think it will be Ward though. I think it will be.
Oh, it'll be Ward, unfortunately, and frustratingly.
The midfielder for me, this is where we had a problem against Brighton. I just don't think we ever really got control of that game. And the problem that we have is damning with Kiate out is that he didn't pick Luka Milivojevic or Gyro and Riddlewell. And for me, that's their time at Palace is coming to an end soon because he clearly hasn't got faith in them. The problem for me is I kind of like Schlupp to stay in the middle because I think our biggest threat will be the fullbacks getting crosses in. Because like I said earlier in this podcast, I don't think our centre-backs are commanding enough. And if Trent Alexander is getting pinpoint crosses in, we're in big trouble, in my opinion. But I know that Steve's probably going to come back at me because I'm not a fan of his either over the last 18 months at all. But I feel like we cannot go against the midfield where you might have a Henderson or Fabinho who are very, very strong with the same middle three that we had against Brighton. We've got to stick someone who's prepared to put like a big challenge in. I probably would, just because we're forced to play Luka Milivojevic, which I'm not proud of saying, but I don't think we've got other options. And then I'd have Gallagher and Hughes in front.
Yeah, I mean, Gallagher and Hughes take care of themselves. The position behind them is a precarious one. And I feel like we need to recruit badly for that position. Even Kiate, he's been okay, but I still feel that he's on a downward spiral now as well.
I mean, it's a big difference between Kiate and having Luka in the team. And I think Palace fans have at least realised that actually Kiate brings quite a bit actually to the team. Although I do agree with you, eventually we need an upgrade. I think that's the big problem position for us because I don't think we can go with the same middle three of Gallagher, Hughes and Schlupp. I think it will be too lightweight and we'll get run over. I think I'd just take a punt and hope that Luka brings the Luka of 2 years ago just for one game.
Yeah. And up front?
Well, I will go with Elise on the right. I would personally go with Edouard on the left, just because I think he'll get some joy in behind Trent Alexander. And a month ago, I would have said this guy is leaving the club, but just because he's on a bit of form, I would stick Mateta up front.
Steve?
Elise all day long on the right. Got to be playing that kid. It's difficult. I mean, he's probably going to put Edouard out on the left. And yeah, I mean,
I don't think Eze had his best game against Brighton, did he? And he was on the left against Brighton. He's still coming to fitness.
Mateta, if he can just up the work rate a little bit, then he might change my mindset. But I can't stand lazy strikers. It really does great on me.
For me, Steve Mateta is an impact sub. Like he's a bit of an extrovert. He's a bit different. And for me, like I'd bring him on 20 minutes to go in front of the Homestale, where he seems to feed off the crowd a bit when you need a goal or you need something different. That's what he is. But I just think at the moment he's playing well. When he's in a good moment, I'd stick him in. Interestingly, Doug, I did a little poll earlier on my social media. 35.9% of Palace fans want Edouard. 24.2% want Mateta up front. But actually, it's Benteke who won it with 39.8%. And that's amidst the current rumour of Burnley being interested.
The bit about Mateta that I'm struggling with is if Mateta was that good, he would have played a lot more for us, first and foremost.
Where did he come from?
He's come from Mainz.
Yeah. I think the issue
okay.
If we play him a certain games, we trigger a fee.
£17 million fee.
Yeah, and for me, I quite like him as an impact sub, but not for that now. So,
no, and that was the next point I was going to make. Where I'm struggling with is we struggled since prime Benteke under Allardyce. who got 18 goals, and we played to his strengths. We had some quality wing play with Balassi and Zaha, but we've not, other than that season, since Andy Johnson and Glenn Murray in the Championship prior to that, we've not had a striker that's clinical. And clinical and Crystal Palace are not two things that mix together nicely. And it pains me to say that. So somehow, from somewhere, from the nether regions of Europe or South America or whatever it is, we need to find someone who is going to put
have we
in
got that guy
15 goals.
Have we got that guy in Edouard, and we just need to persevere with him through the middle, because he's got such quick feet in the box, and are we just getting the right passes into him in the box? Or I don't know whether we should just be building a bit of the team around him a bit better. Do we just persevere with Edouard through the middle? Because long term, I think that needs to be his position through the middle, like you said earlier. But he has had very good games off the left. I just fancy him off the left for this one.
Yeah, I think it'll be Ali in goal. Trent, I'm going to give Kanate the nod over Matip. I think Matip needs a wee break. I think Van Dijk will play. I think Robertson will play. And then I think it'll be Hendo, Fab, and Jones. And then it'll be Jota on the left, Minamino on the right, and Firmino up front. So I think that'll be the front three. Obviously,
very good front options, isn't it? Even without Salah.
Yeah, definitely. To answer Helen Rabel's question, Sunday, I think it's Sunday. They're just obviously playing the other games. I think tomorrow, and then we'll know the last 16. So yeah, wait for Friday for round of 16 predictions video. I haven't forgotten. I just haven't had a lot of time anyway. Olivia Nestlin, Vincent, Allison, Trent, VVD, Kanati, Robbo, Hendo, Fab, Jones, Job, Bobby, Firmino. Minamino. So same team as me. Won't be surprised though if Gordon starts. Yeah, Kate Gordon's a fantastic player. Edward hasn't been a bad signing either. Scored 2 against Tottenham start of the season. I think he also scored 2 against Norwich. Yeah, I think he did as well.
My gnome could have scored against that Norwich team. They were awful. That was like Norwich B team. Like that was the one game over Christmas that I was glad went ahead.
Yeah,
the Norwich fans even faked celebrating a goal. They were quite funny.
Right, prediction. What he's going for?
Small part of me says we could shit house a win. The reality in me, which is probably 95%, says that we're probably going to lose 1 or 2-0.
Okay.
I think we'll take the lead. I've got a good feeling about this one, but I think the way we've been this season and the naivety I talked about will definitely find a way to mess it up. I think it'll finish 1-1.
1-0. Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you were asking what we predicted the last time we faced each other at Selhurst. We both said 3-1 Liverpool.
Oh, did we?
The last time. So, yeah, I'm going 2-1. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. I think you will give us a lot of problems, especially Edwards. He scares me. Olise is a fantastic player as well. And, Conor Gallagher, he can score a goal any minute as well. I just feel we'll have a little bit of joy, maybe down your right, with obviously Joe Ward, as we all know that, Joe Ward hasn't been great. And, you've got quite a young backline, and obviously Anderson and Guehi, and obviously Mitchell's quite young as well. But I am looking forward to this game. But I am going to go 2-1. I think we'll just sneak it as well. But it is going to be a very, very close game. I can definitely say that.
I think where you could potentially win the game is through the set pieces and through the delivery of Trent Alexander, because I just can't see our centre-backs being commanding enough to deal with it. If Guaita's in goal, then we'll be in even bigger trouble, because he won't be able to deal with it in a commanding way. So, but gone 1-1, but I think that will be where Liverpool get their joy. It feels like a much more interesting game because there's no Salah and Mane. It feels like it has evened it up a bit, even though we've lost Zaha.
Yeah, definitely. Hello to Diego. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you're doing well. 1-0 Liverpool. Jones to score a similar goal to Shicks against... Jesus! Wow.
What's he been smoking?
I have no idea, but he always predicts like goal times and how the goal's going to be scored. It's mental, absolutely mental. Hello, Del Boy. Thank you for tuning in. And Diego's saying evening to Helen as well. Guys, it has been an absolutely fantastic and fascinating preview as well. Steve, I just want to say a big thank you for coming on the channel as well. I know you obviously you don't have a YouTube channel, but it's just No Context Humour, right?
Yeah, that's it. I just grace people with my presence. That's what I do.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
No, you're welcome, mate. You're welcome. And Ali,
yeah, great to meet you.
And Ali, thank you very much as well. Play South London Fan TV. How's the channel going?
Well, to be honest, it's just me and my gnome blagging it still, but a bit busy with work and stuff. But I just get on, do reviews when I can, and I'll do a review of this Liverpool game. Mostly started doing them as I walk home now from the game, but yeah, I'll get some reviews.
I have noticed, yeah.
It's just fitting it in. So yeah, I will do a review of the game. Pride of South London Fan TV. There's other stuff on there, a lot of feature videos on Wilfred Zaha. Yeah, but yeah, check it out. Pride of South London Fan TV. I need to start going live. That's what YouTubers do to get subscribers.
Yeah. But yeah, I would recommend doing live. I would definitely recommend. recommend doing live.
It's me and my gnome fitting it in when we can, really. But yeah, definitely we'll do reviews of games and definitely check it out after the Liverpool game. Pride of South London on TV.
Absolutely.
I look forward to linking up again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always great to link up, and obviously I speak to Steve almost every day. Whenever it's on Twitter, whenever it's on DMs, I'll go and check both of these guys out. They do fantastic jobs on YouTube and on Twitter as well. So yeah, going to be a very fascinating game. 2:00 on Sunday. Looking forward to the game. I have to say it will not be 7-0 like last season. It's going to be a much closer game, I think. I'll be majorly surprised if Palace don't score as well. But thank you for watching. If you have obviously missed this, and obviously enjoy the repeat, I always do say. And yeah, we'll see what happens on Sunday. But until then, it is goodbye from the three of us, and we will see you very soon. Take care. Bye for now.